Let's meet the phantoms once again.
The ghosts are back, and the nightmare is ready to begin. At the IAAPA Expo in Orlando, Kings Island officially unveiled Phantom Theater, Opening Nightmare, the reimagining of one of the park's most beloved attractions. This isn't just a nostalgic nod, it's a full-scale return of Phantom Theater, with updated characters, deeper storytelling, and a fresh creative direction that has longtime fans buzzing with anticipation.
He's Don. I'm Ryan. This is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics, it's available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, so be sure to hit subscribe and stay up to date with all things Kings Island. So Ryan, very exciting news this week at the IAAPA Expo in Orlando. Everybody kind of speculated that they would unveil something having to do with Phantom Theater, Opening Nightmare, and boy, did they have people excited.
They did. We're going to show the videos of the actual unveil. So people speculated this, you're correct. And we had the image of that the TikToker had taken. And people kind of speculated that it was maybe their display at IAAPA, which is clearly what it is. But let's start off with that. Without further ado, let's actually show the unveil. And I used AI to enhance the voices so you can hear the Maestro and No Legs Larry in all of their glory with really no background noise. Very clean.
Again.
Oh, wow. Hello, music lover. I am known far and wide as the Maestro. That's my friends call me the Maestro. And he is an amazing talent, a true pike organ artiste extraordinaire. That I am indeed. My fellow performers and I invite you to experience the all-new, totally entertaining Phantom Theater. It's been well over 20 years, but we're back. Our entire cast has returned and can't wait for the curtain to rise on opening night. It's going to be a truly memorable evening. The flashlights are all ready for our ushers to sing our audience. Oh, I hope all goes well. I hate for the premiere performance of my newest Might Organ masterpiece to be ruined by the ghost snouts. Oh dear, that would be a disaster. It could turn our opening night into, well, a real opening nightmare.
That's the first time I've heard that clearly without a lot of crowd noise and a lot of excitement, like I said. I think there were a couple things at the IAAPA Expo on day one that had, everyone buzzing, and this was one of them. Big crowd around it. I mean, that event over the years has certainly changed when you have these kind of unveilings and that, you used to have, just the general, like, traditional news media and that around there. But now with all the bloggers, the influencers, the YouTubers, everyone that thinks they're the media these days, that it was quite the crowd around it. But I was very impressed with how they did the unveiling. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I am too. I love it. It still gives me chills. Now, the real question is, was that custom audio for IAAPA, you think? Because that could also kind of work for like the initial room, like where the Maestro used to play the organ. So, but he does say it's been over 20 years, which would be kind of cool if they did integrate that into the ride itself.
Oh, exactly. With that, I mean, it was like I said, a very cool unveiling. I was scrolling through social media, living vicariously through everyone that's posting. So I felt like I was there to see all the different comments and things, but just a lot of excitement. I think it exceeded everyone's expectations as to what the characters look like at the unveiling, and I don't think anyone was expecting it to be something like that.
No, and one thing I want to point out was that the range of motion, it looks a little bit better than the original characters, especially looking at the video. But at the very beginning of that, the Maestro takes a bow that's a level of articulation that none of those characters had last time. So that was really
No,
cool.
no. You and I have debated and talked and about whether or not this would be better than the original. I felt that it definitely was going to be better than the original, and this just makes me feel all more confident that it will be, having seen the two characters there with the Maestro and No Legs Larry.
Now, the Maestro is the original voice, from what I understand. No Legs Larry didn't really have a voice, but he sounds a lot like the guy that did No Legs Larry for Phantom Theater Encore.
It does. The only thing that he's in the original, he was just move along. The show was about to begin.
Yeah,
type of
but
a
he
thing,
but he
so
didn't sound like this. He was
no, it
moving
didn't
along,
sound
he
like
was
this.
very quiet,
Yeah.
So I wonder if they have the guy. I mean, honestly, that would be the smartest thing possible, is because that's what No Legs Larry sounds like to all the people that visit Kings Island.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Like I said, very impressed with the detail and everything, but there's more that you have to
Yeah.
share with our audience.
Before the unveil, Kings Island spokesperson Tony Clark actually made a short speech and talked about some of the new elements that are going to be there. And this is what that sounded like.
All the updated tech inside the ride, you're going to be able to do things you haven't been able to do in that ride before. The new tech is in there, new special effects, wind, lights, projection, things like that. Your familiar characters are back from the old ride. The Maestro, No Legs Larry the Usher, Hilda Bovine, the Great Garbanzo, and many more. We also have a few new characters added to the ride, which I can't get away all the secrets today. But I will say there is a new cat, Arpeggio, or as we call him, Archie, who will be joining Maestro inside Phantom Theater. And there's also some Easter eggs from the former ride. So when you ride it, you have to look around you during the entire experience to see if you recognize anything from the original ride.
There's a lot to be excited about. I like that they're incorporating some new characters. I think the cat is going to be very popular. One of the things with the original Phantom Theater, it was just kind of a you can buy the t-shirt with the logo and that it said Phantom Theater. That was really all there was. I think this just opens up the door for so many possibilities for Kings Island. You could have all these characters are going to have their own fans, so it gives you a great opportunity to do like a group shot type of a t-shirt, just of the Maestro, just of No Legs Larry the Usher, some of the other ones, the cat, just so many different things that Kings Island can do with this to really make it fun for the guests, because they all want to have those shirts and that, but also as a way to generate some revenue beyond just having like one or two different designs that we saw so far in the gift shops after it was announced in the fall.
Why not walk around characters? I know that they've done that with other parks, like especially in Japan. They create original characters for dark rides, and then they're like, oh god, they're popular, and then they dress up.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think the walk around characters would be a lot of fun. I think especially, they're not really restricted to a certain area like the Peanuts characters might be nowadays. You could have them in the morning at the front gate as guests are coming in at 9:30, the photo ops and all that you could do with them. They could be walking around outside of the theater as well. But I think there's a lot of opportunity there too to have the characters, and again, everybody loves the photo ops. Everybody, that would take those photos, they're going to be sharing it on social media, and that's just a great way for Kings Island to create a lot of awareness and buzz, just going beyond the ride by having the walk around characters.
I'm thinking, so there's somebody on the Facebook group that posts, they make like plushes of No Legs Larry. They'd be crazy not to sell these characters as plushes and stuff like that. Crazy.
Oh,
now,
for
that
sure.
being said, we don't know if we'll do it.
No, I mean, there's just there's just so many opportunities there for Kings Island with this ride, beyond the ride, with it, it's really more than a ride, it's just a beloved piece of Kings Island history here. So, why not? But, going back to the unveiling that they did, there was a lot of, concern out there in the social space and on the, the fan forums about, how good this would be. Is it going to be better than the original? And that, I thought the attention to detail was something that I was really impressed with the unveiling. You know, you mentioned about the Maestro, you know, bending over the bow and all that. The movements definitely enhanced over what we saw with the original.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Maestro's hair is a little bit longer than I imagined it, but I guess that's something
Yeah,
that's
he's
in my
20, you
mind.
know, 20 something years since he's had a haircut, maybe, who knows?
That's
But
true, and your
no,
hair
but it's
continues to grow after you die, so there's that. Um,
exactly. But it's, you know, it's what if they never had Phantom Theater in 1992 and they just now created it, this is what it would be. So I
oh
think
yeah,
there's a lot, yeah, there's a lot to be excited about, you know, here. And they say the ride's going to open in April. So hopefully it'll be ready by then. They've, you know, kind of gutted it already from the Boo Blasters. So, you know, and they do promise to keep us updated. You know, there were some of the things that I saw different videos and that interviews with Tony that, you know, they would continue to update fans throughout the off season about this. Um, but I can't wait for April to get here because, you know, there's a lot of rides in Kings Island's history I've been excited about. But this one's up there near the top.
I think this is the one I'm most excited about. Um, I think it's just incredible. But let's not forget to unpack what Tony said. So not all, a lot of the original characters are returning. Can't say all because we don't know that for sure. New characters, including the cat Archie,
Yep.
and then new effects like wind and projection
Yeah.
mapping.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, we talked about it would be projection mapping when we first broke the news that it was going to be returning. You know, back in, I don't know when that was, early August or something, mid August. We did that episode, but so we felt that that would be part of it because that's just, you know, where the technology is nowadays. But things like wind, uh, you know, that's really going to add to the experience.
How do you create an effect like that? No, yeah, the projection mapping. Okay, I wanna give an official Tower Topics backpedal because I think we both had reasonable concern that there would be a couple of animatronics and a lot of cardboard and maybe some screens. I am 100% certain that that is not the case.
Yeah, I always thought it was going to be better than the original, though. I had no question about that. It was just when it came to the characters, you know, how much of it would be what we saw, you know, with whether it was Boo Blasters or before that with Scooby Doo, you know, how much of it would be cutouts and that kind of a thing. So it's exciting to see, you know, the way these characters were and just how much detail, you know, went into them. They look a little different than the originals, but that's okay in my book.
I it does bother me. I'm not going to say like, oh, I like them so much better. It bothers me that they don't look the same, but these look better. That's what it comes down to. You know, they do
Oh,
look
yeah.
better.
Yeah, do a
Honestly,
side by side. If someone took a picture of Maestro at the unveiling and then you put Maestro, you know, that opening scene in the original when you would come around the corner and he's like standing there and that, if you put
Mhm.
those two side by side, I mean, there's no question that Maestro for 2026 is going to look better than Maestro did in 1992.
I mean, better articulation. He's going to look better. I don't have a photo of it because I couldn't find a good one, but I will say that uh, we're getting new weapons, shall we say? We're getting flashlights,
Flashlights.
and they look to be completely different. So it's not going to be the Scooby Doo ones again that are going to be repurposed.
No,
So
there's like
that's
a
kind of
little
cool.
button you push. I saw a video that Tony had done an interview with someone and they were explaining it, but there's like a little button and you just keep pushing it and then it shoots out. Very easy to hold in your hand,
Mhm.
lightweight. That was one of the things that Tony highlighted on was that it would not be, you know, something that would be heavy. So guest of all ages riding it could pretty much hold it in that. So it makes it interactive, which the original was not.
Okay. So I'm going to pull up here. So there is the dual character of the Maestro as well as No Legs Larry. So you can get a good look at him. Actually, let's take one step back. So there's the Maestro. We can't really do a side by side, but let's do that's I think that's the Maestro you're talking about. Look how stiff he is.
Yeah,
His arms
yeah,
are always
exactly.
out like that. Um, you know, the face looked a little creepier. This is a little bit more cartoonish, maybe. But it definitely looks better. It looks less like an animatronic and more like a ghoul, you know?
Yeah,
Best way to put
yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah, the thing about No Legs Larry too, he was part of the original. Was one of my
Mhm.
favorite characters in there, but just a couple of times that you saw him. But then after they did Phantom Theater Encore, he became such a central figure that that he has a much bigger role in this. And one of the roles is that you are an usher along with him throughout the ride, and you're trying to shoot all the music notes and that. So as a rider, you're considered an usher for this experience.
And you're riding in an enchanted opera box, by the way. That's the theme of the vehicle. So I think they're based on that. I don't think they're going to go back to the black. I think they are going to go with like the maroon color that's in the concept art, because that would be like the felt color that an opera
Right.
box would have. Um, Here's one thing that's popped in my head. I want your guess on it. We're pretty sure that there's going to be animatronics in the queue area. Like they can't not do that. Assuming that the Phantoms or the Phantom, I'm thinking of
Maestro.
operas. Maestro. I was thinking operas. So Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah,
The Maestro is in there. Do you think he'll play the organ for us again?
I would think so. I think that sets a mood, sets a tone. So I would think that would be kind of an important component to have in the queue area.
I remember thinking that was just the coolest thing because I thought he was really playing it. When I was and they did a pretty good job of, he'd articulate back and forth and his shoulders would kind of shift and stuff. So it looked like you couldn't tell that he wasn't really touching it. But I remember
Yeah,
thinking that was like the coolest thing ever when I was 10 years old or whatever, when I first rode this ride.
yeah. And then he would turn around and say stuff out at the crowd and that. So I would think
Mhm.
that kind of element would still be part of the ride.
Do you think he'll take requests? It's 2020. It's going to be
Uh,
2026. Maestro. Do
the
you think they'll
potential is
switch?
there. That'd be funny if they did. But no, I think that I saw somebody called out. They found the plans, in Mason, when they filed to do the work in the building and that, and somebody said, "Oh, this is disappointing. It's only $900,000. It's not going to be that
Mm,
good." Well,
I
the
think those
buildings,
two animatronics are more than $900,000 that we
yeah,
saw.
yeah. We're just talking about the work that's being done inside the building. You're not constructing a building. The building's already there. It's in place. That saves you a lot of money.
Millions.
If you were building from the ground floor up, you're talking about a $6 or $7 million project there, from the ground floor up with it. So they have the existing structure net that saves some money. So it's just the infrastructure work that you're doing inside that would fall into that 900,000 range, I believe, with that. But no, when you look at the characters and what's going into that, I mean, it's a figure ride. Is it as much as what it costs to build Orion? No, it doesn't have to be. You look at a ride like Mystic Timbers, that was not the most expensive ride in Kings Island's history, and it's one of the best rides they've ever had. So it's not about the money, it's about the experience that it delivers. So always keep that in mind, when you're looking at those figures.
Yeah, and I want to point out that I said, and I've said it since we started Tower Topics, they have to be exploring bringing back Phantom Theater, but unless they're going to do it right, I don't want it. I don't
No,
want.
you did. Yeah, you were the one that did not want it unless it was going to be done right. And after what we saw through
I
all the
want it.
videos that are out there,
Mhm.
um, there's no question in my mind that they're going to do it right. And I wish you and I could have been there in person to see it, but there was enough people out there shooting video, and a lot of people captured some great footage from different angles of it as it was being unveiled. And it was fun to watch. I spent most of my day yesterday after it was unveiled. I think it was like around 2:15, 2:20 range whenever it was unveiled. And so up until late afternoon, I'm sitting there going through and looking at all the different videos and that are posted. Some of the enthusiasm that I could hear, I knew those voices, those sounds of excitement from some of the people that were in the crowd. So that was kind of fun too, that I was able to identify who some of those people were just by the excitement, the screaming and that kind of thing that I heard.
Yeah, and we have Phantom Theater, which was dead and gone, and then the Phantom Theater Encore thing came up, which I think that I mean, you obviously were there for that, but I think you were confident that it would be successful. I don't necessarily think that everybody thought it would be successful. not that they thought it would fail, but they probably thought like, oh, let's see what happens.
I thought it was going to be cross-generational, that there would be the people that now the parents, bringing their kids that they grew up with Phantom Theater. They love the ride. They talk to their kids about the ride. Every time you'd go through Planet Snoopy, they probably said there used to be a ride called Phantom Theater in here. Those types of discussions, and to be able to kind of introduce, your kids to Phantom Theater through the show, I thought was really cool. And I thought that would connect and that would happen. And it did. But now with the ride, coming back, it's the same kind of thing, where you're going to have that multi-generational thing where there's going to be those that rode the original and those that are riding it for the first time. And I think that's going to create some good synergies there.
Absolutely. But my thought was, though, like, the Phantom Theater Encore went over very well. The announcement went over very well. The unveil went over very well. So I wonder if, Tony as in Carvellano and, all the people who are anybody, they're thinking to themselves like, man, this has to be done right now because this cannot be a disappointment.
No, it did not disappoint yesterday. That's for sure. If you were expecting, or you had it on your calendar and, you were just waiting for that unveiling, that, to me, it did not disappoint. There's always going to be somebody out there where it did meet expectations. We know that's just reality of the situation. But for me, and I think the majority of the people from what I saw with all the online chatter, they did not walk away disappointed by what they saw.
Yeah. Naysayers going to naysay. However, it's a little hard to do with this one and still maintain integrity. Don, more news out of Kings Island. I heard that the Beast is going to be 200 feet shorter.
Well, I think we saw something on social media there, didn't we, Ryan?
Yeah. Kings Island posted, we partnered with the talented team at the Gravity Group as we work to upgrade and enhance the Beast. This off-season's retracking project is officially underway as we begin removing approximately 200 feet of track, including the entire top of the second lift. We are committed to providing a high-quality, unforgettable ride experience for Kings Island guests on the world's longest wooden roller coaster. And unforgettable it will be.
Well, Ryan, for starters, with this social media post that the park made, I think when you list the company that you're partnering with, very important, when you're posting on social media or a blog or whatever you're doing, with those you're partnering with, it's very important to get the name right.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Gravity Group, not Gravity Group. It's the is part of the name. So, you did not have the Gravity Group in there. So you had that part wrong. And if you work for the Gravity Group and you saw this post, that's something that you're certainly going to recognize that that's not our full name. With that a little thing, but if you're with the Gravity Group, that's a big thing. Also didn't tag the Gravity Group. That would have helped. You want to tag and get, send traffic back to their social channels as well. Removing approximately 200 feet of track without immediately saying it will be replaced. That leaves the door, open for, readers to assume, permanent removal. Someone skimming the statement might think, oh, are they taking out 200 feet? Are they shortening the ride? So from a PR, social media, wording standpoint, Ryan, the sentence is a little ambiguous, not well written at all. So I think sometimes what you want to do, even though common sense says that it's not going to be, Dukes of Hazzard here, where you're coming down that second drop and then you're kind of leaping to the other.
Because some people.
That's right. Yeah, going Dukes of Hazzard here. Okay. Yeah, some other people have the same thought process I did. I think the other one says what? Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, you can jump the track like Donkey Kong.
Yeah. So other people saw it the same way, but it's what you got to do is you before you hit that post button or schedule, whatever you're going to do, however you do these things, is you want to read it back so you know how it's going to look to your readers. How are they going to interpret things like that? Again, common sense says that's not happening, but again, there's people making those comments as you just pulled up there on their socials, and there's just been an abundance of things that there's these little snafus that you kind of, it takes a credibility hit for Kings Island when there's inaccuracies that are out there. I think a couple of weeks ago, they made a post about the original bat and they said it operated from 1981 to 1984. It never made a cycle in 1984. You know, the last rides were in 1983. I was in line. You know, I almost was on the last train. So it was 1983. So little things like that. I think what Skylab was another one. They were only off by a decade or so.
Well, that was
a number
close,
of years. Yeah, a number of years it was at the park. So there's all kinds of things that just aren't accurate. So I don't know where they get their information. You know, where they research and try to find things. It's not that hard. You know, to have. And there's people out there that you could, hey, is this right? You know, before you post it. Before it just tells everybody that you got to disregard what they're posting because they don't know what they're talking about. And that happens. I have a lot of people that every time they make an error like that, my inbox, with Messenger on Facebook or X, or even emails, it's like, did you see the post today? How could they have Skylab wrong? It's just things like that get called out. So I would hope, that it's not that hard to clean up the little things. It's like the Bengals defense. They always go back and say, well, you look at the tape, we did some things well, but there's some things we need to correct. It's the same thing here. Just make those corrections and a lot of the stuff that's being published by Kings Island is really good content. It's just that it gets overshadowed by a lot of the little snafus that people, they catch. People that know the park's history that, are looking at that rather than what the actual content is sometimes.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you what my concern is with this. So going Dukes of Hazzard, Donkey Kong, these people are kidding. So they don't really believe this stuff, obviously. My concern, though, is somebody reads it and says, okay, they tore down 200 feet of track because they're doing a retrack thing. So I turn around and I tell Billy, hey, did you hear that they tore out 200 feet of the beast and they're going to replace it with new track to make it more smooth? And then Billy turns around and tells somebody, hey, they tore out 200 feet of track from the beast. They're going to try to make it smoother. And then it's, hey, they tell somebody else, hey, they tore out 200 feet of track from the beast. And it becomes, they just remove 200 feet of track from the beast.
It does. That's, that's becomes the, just what the sentiment is, what the thought process is that it did lose 200 feet of track. But you never know. I mean, maybe out of this, they'll, try to spin it and say it gained another 2 feet or something when it didn't. So those are the kind of things you got to watch for too, is trying to make something out of nothing. And, just so you can get the headlines and get, the media to jump on something when it's not really there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much I would want the photo of a bunch of it torn down to get out, because let's say I'm sure there were news stories about this. I didn't see any, but I'm sure they picked up on it. But if they're using that photo of a big section of the beast torn down, don't you think people might just glance at it and be like, oh, they're tearing down the beast? I think that's also
I think the thing, you're working with the Gravity Group
mm-hmm.
and the Gravity Group. And what you would want to do in a post like that is, we're replacing 200 feet of track with the Gravity Group's pre-cut track, which has, we put in, and then you kind of highlight in other sections of the ride where you've added that. You mentioned again that you've done work on the racer, with them, with the pre-cut track. So I think it's a way to kind of, give the Gravity Group credit for the innovation that they have there with that pre-cut track. So you want to reference that, but there's ways you could have worded that a lot different, and you wouldn't have had the little, the little remarks in that you pulled up and that people were messaging, me about saying, hey, did you see this? Are they losing 200 feet of track? It seems that way based on the wording. And again, just the way it is worded, yeah, a little ambiguous there, that people are going to make those kind of assumptions and that without, if they just skim through it, anybody that really knows what goes on with construction and, retracking, that knows that that's not going to happen. But there's a lot of novices out there too, there's people they're all new to this, and they start to wonder what's happening there.
Yeah, but I mean, it'd be one thing if they were replacing track and she should track missing or whatever, but this is blatantly like a big section of the ride missing. Like that, to me, I don't know. I think that would be too risky for my blood. I mean, I'm not the decision maker here, though. But
no, I think that would be something if you're demolishing the ride. Those would be kind of cool shots to put out there.
I mean, they're demolishing 200 feet. Now, if they do end up losing 200 feet, because it's still not clear if that 200 feet is going to be put back, do they lose 200 feet or they lose like 196 feet since they gained 4 with the last gravity creep? Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm just trying
Anyway.
to elicit a response out of you. Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Hey, Don, let's give a shout out to our Prestige members. Let's give a big shout out to Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Dakota Cole, Eric Grau, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, Medic 302, Eastern Coaster, guys and girls, Justin Wide, Mike Gary, Galaxy B-Boy, and our newest member, Greg Eversol. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers they can get some free stuff. If you click the link in the description, don't go through Apple or Google or whatever. It should be $2.99 for the base tier, $2.99. It's a cup of coffee. That's such a mouthful. We'll be right back with the listener questions.
And now it's time for the Tower Topics listener questions.
Right. First listener question, Jerry from Hamilton, Ohio. He said, I've always been interested in the behind the scenes operations at Kings Island. I've noticed that Cornerstone Cafe when riding Diamondback, and I've seen 2 employee entrances. I'm curious what kind of menu they have and or any other information or stories you guys might have about the employee cafe.
It's pretty much a cafe. I mean, it's just a place where the employees go and they, can have their lunch or just take a break and sit down, have a drink. But it's the food and that in there. It's a lot of what you would see in the park. You can get burgers, hot dogs, pizza. They have like spicy chicken sandwiches. That was one of my favorites that they had there. And then during the week, they would have, on different days, they would have the specials. Like one day would be Skyline Chili would be in there. Another day you might have meatball subs that you could get. Another day it might be Italian sausage. So they did have the specials. And this, again, I haven't been in there for 2.5 years, so I don't know what the menu looks like today. But that's what it had been pretty much for years was the standards. The soft drinks, you can get, that in there. They had some, cookies, ice cream treats that you could buy. So it's nice. I was in the employee cafeterias for some of the other, at the time, Legacy Cedar Fair parks, Cedar Point, Carowinds, California's Great America. And I thought that this was, probably the nicest one that I'd been to. There was, it's a lot of room to sit down. There's the outdoor seating too. So a lot of options for the employees. So I think it was, it was a nice place and the food, was pretty good.
I've been back there once. I've never worked for Kings Island. Back in the Paramount days, who took me back there? Maybe was it Jeffrey Siebert, Maureen Kaiser, somebody like that? They just like, I was walking with them and they were just like, hey, walk with me. And we walked through it to get from like where Chick-fil-A is to the other side where you go out. So I have been back there. I just wanted to input something into this answer.
Yeah.
All right. I want to point out, so was it Kinzel that came in and said the food's too expensive, or was that Matt we met? So I remember there was a time it might have been Paramount where the food was just,
the food prices got to be a little high for the employees, to the point that where having eating their lunch or dinner in there was costing them, close to what they made per hour. So when Cedar Fair took over, one of the things that they wanted to do, General Manager Greg Scheid was involved in this, was they wanted to lower the prices and made it much more affordable for all the associates. And one of the things that they changed was free soft drinks.
Oh, really?
So any of the employees, could go in and get, a soft drink or, other things that were near, the water. If there was hot chocolate during the winter months, that you could get, all those kind of things in there. So they made the drinks free, lowered the prices. Now the prices did start to creep up a little bit near the end of my time there, but nothing like they were when I first started working there in 2007.
I think that was like the edict was no more than a half hour's pay for the average employee. Like that was their goal for a meal. Like
Yeah,
make
you
it
could
so
get
it was less than
it was
an
like
hour's pay?
it was like $4.23 or something. I don't know why I remember that number, but to get like a cheeseburger and fries, it was $4.23.
Inflation proof. I wonder if now, I mean, now they pay $16 an hour. Is it $8 for that stuff?
I don't know. Yeah, if you work there, let us know what the food prices are now.
Yeah. George from Grand Rapids, Michigan. This one's a long one. He said, "Hello, Ryan and Don. I love your YouTube show, even though my home park is Michigan's Adventure. On a recent episode, Don mentioned he would recommend going to Dollywood during their Christmas event. I too am going to that event. My son is looking forward to the train they have that goes around the park. My family is going my family is going to Dollywood, Biltmore House, and because we have Michigan's Adventure season passes and we can't use them anymore, they closed for the year. We're stopping by Carowinds as well, and maybe Kings Island on the way back. My question is related to the hours of Winterfest, though. I noticed Carowinds hours for Winterfest is 11 to 7 and KI's is 4 to 10. Do you think Six Flags is testing the hours of Carowinds before doing it Winterfest wide? They also don't have the parade or ice skating like KI does. Which hours would you all prefer? I've never been to a Winterfest event, so I have no opinion on the matter. Maybe I'll have one after visiting KI. Keep up the good work. P.S. My son talked about going to the Speedway Christmas show at the Charlotte Motor Speedway as well. He's been obsessed with the last year's videos on YouTube. His favorite movie right now is Elf, so we're surprising him by going when the Speedway is showing it as a drive-in movie style, surrounded by all the lights. I'll give it a report when I come back. And we definitely want to hear about that, George.
We do. Dollywood, Smoky Mountain Christmas, fantastic event. It's hard to beat it in terms of, if you're trying to say which Christmas event is the best. The train ride up through the mountains, 20-something minute ride with the way the train's all decorated during the holidays. It just looks beautiful. Park looks beautiful. You're going to have a fantastic time. As far as Carowinds with their hours, I think someone there, thought that, people come to see the lights during the day. To me, it makes no sense to do that. When you think about holiday events, it's about the lights, the atmosphere, and it's hard to have that if you're not open at night. So by the time, the event's wrapping up at the end of the night, now it does get dark there, 5:30, whatever. So you get 90 minutes of lights. I don't know that that's enough though. When you go there, you want to, it's making it more of a, the park's open during Christmas, type of a feel with some of the rides and stuff. I don't like the hours that they have, 11 to 7. I think a big part of that event, people are going to notice that it's not as magical, when it's not dark. So I definitely prefer Kings Island's hours. If it's Saturday, it's 4 to 10. If it's, Monday through Friday, and at Sundays, it's 5 to 10. So I would rather have those hours, even though they're a little bit shorter. I'd rather have those hours than what Carowinds has.
A couple things here. First of all, I agree with you. 5 to 10 is way better, or 4 to 10, or whatever it is. I could swallow the pill of opening it like 2. I know Carowinds did that the first year. And then maybe they could have an extra ice skating session, a couple more shows or whatever. That's not what he asked, though. My main thing, I thought they had ice skating at one point. Did they get rid of it?
They may have. I know they did have it. I do know that the parade was gone.
Yeah. The best parade that Cedar Fair, well, I can't say that because I haven't been to all the parks, and they've got like knots and stuff, which does pretty good with entertainment. But that's a shame. What a great asset to that event, and they're just cutting it everywhere.
And they're going to hear about it with the hours. There's going to be a lot of dissatisfaction. Now, the ones that are going there to ride the coasters, and if you're there to just ride Fury through 325 as many times as you can that day, it's going to work out for you. You're going to be okay with that. But just part of that atmosphere. Now, when you go to those events, they're going to find in that area that there's other things that people can do at night that has the lights in that, and that's going to end up being what a lot of people end up doing. I would not like to see Kings Island go to those hours. When Kings Island first started doing Winterfest in 1982, it was open from 2 to 10.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit more of daytime, but that was to give people more chance to skate and, go through and see all the crafts, and they had the model trains on display and that. So it was kind of designed that you could do all those kind of things and get that out of the way. And then when it got dark, you'd check out the lights and check out the shows and ice, keep skating and that. Not a lot of rides open back then, but But yeah, even if they went like 2 to 10, I'd be all right with that again if they went back to that kind of a model, but they won't.
Looking at it from the perspective of they're in crushing debt, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about that at length. I agree. They're not going to add hours. I don't think they've got a lot to gain aside from like the guest experience kind of thing. I do see a time when like things even out and, maybe a couple years they do that. But what would be really cool? I've thought about this a lot. Most of I Street lights up with the Eiffel Tower Christmas tree at the tree lighting. What if basically none of the lights in the park were lit until they light the tree and then the whole park lights up? That way you're not seeing like where it's less magical and stuff. It's just, shows and ice skating and stuff like that. And then you got to stick around because they light the tree at 5:30 and that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, that's what I would do if they had earlier hours, and that there would be a certain time of night when they did the tree lighting, and that's when it all began with the lights, on the buildings and everything. You just didn't see anything kind of barely lit, throughout the park as you're walking around.
Yeah. All right. Carol from Mount Washington. Hey, a bunch of us in the season pass group have been pushing hard to help Kings Island climb the USA Today Best Theme Park Christmas Event poll. And we've even gotten it up to second place. We're just a little puzzled why Tower Topics hasn't been helping to promote it. I thought you guys loved Kings Island.
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks to, the season pass group and an aggressive, pace the past couple of weeks by Kings Island. They did nothing, last year to promote this. They did nothing to promote Haunt the past couple of years, when it was up for the award. No post whatsoever. So it was kind of a little interesting that all of a sudden a couple of weeks ago, now they start posting about it. So I don't know if they were told to, or, maybe they listened to a certain podcast that said they should be doing that. I don't know where they might have got, the inspiration to start promoting it heavily like they have been. But between, I guess that partnership between, we'll say, the park and the season pass group, they went from like number 12 to number 2, within a few days. It's going to be tough to get the number 1. You still need to have other people, helping you out to get that vote. Part of that's, getting the news media involved to let them know that, hey, you're number 2, help Kings Island win. Will they do that? Will they get that push? There's, other, people out there that are pretty influential that, haven't done anything, with this, but as to why Tower Topics hasn't been, helping to promote it, there's a variety of reasons. I think one of the things is, when you get told by Six Flags, the person that oversees, Kings Island and the region, and they say that, there is to be no collaboration between us and you, we're not going to have any. This is part of the collaboration. If you want our help, that's a collaboration, right? Well, they said there wasn't going to be any. So we haven't promoted it, on here. But I think the Facebook group has done a phenomenal job. It's not just, Kings Island here that's in the running. The Cincinnati Zoo has won the best zoo holiday event for several years in a row. I think the last time I looked, they were in the lead still. So, it would be, fantastic if 2 different winter events, holiday events from the Cincinnati area, got voted number 1 in the USA Today polls. I think that would be terrific. And it wouldn't just be about Kings Island and Cincinnati Zoo. I mean, this would also be a win for the city of Cincinnati that they've got these 2 events that were number 1 in this poll. So, if you've been voting in the USA Today poll, through the Facebook group, or you're seeing it posted by Kings Island on social media, by all means, support it, help the park get to number 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too, where it's a podcast about Kings Island. We don't work for them. We don't work with them in any way. So I don't really care about the poll. So I'm not going to like waste time and content and effort and whatever talking about it. If they win, we'll do an episode on it. Or if they like finish 10th, we'll do an episode on it. If they finish 2 or 3, that's not super interesting. But to me, it's like, if I knew that, like, if we win USA Today top 10 or Reader's Digest or whomever, then that'll tell corporate that we love Winterfest and it'll definitely come back in 2027. I'd be all about it. But the truth is, it gives the park bragging rights. It gives them the ability to market it. It gives them the PR and stuff. And that's not my wheelhouse. Like, that's not what I'm concerned with at all. You know?
Fair enough.
Yeah. If you have questions, Don, tell them how to submit their questions.
Well, we have an email address. It is host@towertopics.com. So what you'd want to do is in the subject line, just put question for Tower Topics. Make sure that you include your first name, your city, your state, and just send us your question, and we'll work it into an upcoming show. We'd love to hear your thoughts. It doesn't necessarily have to be Kings Island themed. We've gotten some other ones about comparisons to other parks, or I've never been to this Six Flags park. Have you been there? Any kind of question that you have like that, we'd certainly be able to answer that for you. But we love hearing from our listeners. You've got a lot on your mind, and if you have questions, we're the place to send those. But it's beyond email at host@towertopics.com. There's another way. You can send us a text or a voicemail. It is 513-399-7538, and just leave us your message that way. And we've had some different voicemails, a number of them that have come in that we've played them on the episodes, and we would love to have more voicemails. Those are great for us because it gives us in a lot of ways an opportunity to react to them in real time, because a lot of times we don't listen to those until we play them, to know what the question is. So if you got something on your mind, send us a text or a voicemail. We don't monitor the text or anything like that. You're not going to get a response back from us or anything. It just puts it into the pool for us to draw questions. But again, text or voicemail 513-399-7538.
He's the Don. I'm the Ryan. This is Tower Topics.